This is MC Fireside Chats, a weekly show devoted to the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Brian Searl and Cara Csizmadia. You'll hear from special guests that focus on topics to help your business succeed, all backed by Modern Campground, the most innovative news source in the industry.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl with Insider Perks and Modern Campground, here as always with Cara Csizmadia from the Canadian Camping and RV Council and Mr. Darryle Busa, my Editor-in-Chief at Modern Campground. We're really excited to bring you another episode today. I got my amazing background behind me that I didn't try really hard for this week. I apologize. I'm even wearing a t-shirt because I'm literally going to leave and go on vacation right after this to Jasper National Park. So kind of excited about that. But we're really excited today to be talking about Outdoorsy. We've got Jennifer Young, who is the co-founder and chief marketing officer, and probably 27 other things that aren't on her bio for Outdoorsy. And we're going to just kind of do a deep dive into here and talk about how this ties into the campground and RV park industry, some of her vision, where Outdoorsy came from, all that kind of stuff. And so, Cara, where do we want to start? I think we should have Miss Young introduce herself, right? Is it Miss or Mrs.?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say an intro from Jen would be amazing.
Well, I am, first of all, thanks guys for having me here. Really appreciate it. Cara, happy to see you again virtually is the way it goes of late. My name is Jennifer Young, and yes, I am one of the co-founders of Outdoorsy, and I am officially a Mrs. I am married to Jeff Cavins, and thank you for having us. I mean, we started Outdoorsy back in 2014 because we really wanted to live a life that was not trapped underneath fluorescent lights in office buildings and city centers. We both connected to and knew about the healing powers and benefits of time spent outdoors, like a simple little day trip to do a little wee hike, all the way to a full week-long, 2-week-long road trip across the country. It didn't matter how long or short the duration was. We always came back feeling more connected to ourselves, more connected to one another. Our clarity of thought was improved, and we felt healthier and stronger. So that was our goal and our mission. And when we started figuring out how do we wrap a business around that, we moved into launching Outdoorsy because it was the best way to get more people also able to access the outdoors. And how we do that is basically bringing the 18 million recreational vehicles, camper vans, SUV trucks with rooftop tents all online. So now through Outdoorsy.com, you can rent any of these. We're in 4,800 cities, and it's kind of as easy. It's kind of as easy as cash from an ATM machine. Just go online, search and find a vehicle in your neighborhood, and hit off for the day, whether it's lunch outside in a park or a road trip.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm interested in kind of the fundamental process, maybe from a consumer side, about how that works. So I can log onto your website and pick dates and my location, and then select from available units. Is that correct?
And you could share your screen too, Cara, if you want.
Yeah, it really is that easy. Now, for us consumers, we have two main consumers. We have people that own RVs and find themselves only using them maybe 2 weekends of the year after the third year they've had this RV in their driveway. And Outdoorsy is a great way for them to list their RV, just as simple as going to Outdoorsy.com, clicking on list your RV, 4 steps. We take you through the process, which essentially is write a description, upload photos, qualify for insurance. It's one of our key differentiators at the company level is we also have the full suite of insurance products for RV owners. And then you publish your listing and you'll start getting bookings within a week. You might make, $2,000 or $3,000, in your first couple of weeks listing. On the renter side, which is our other consumer, it's as easy as that, Cara. You basically just go shopping online. And not only do we help you find vehicles that are in your price point or have the right number of beds or seat belts for your kids or are pet friendly. But you can also find owners that will throw in a ton of add-ons for you. So if you want to do fishing or paddle boarding or a hiking trip or just like a food trip, you can find owners that will throw in all that stuff and include it as part of the rental. So you don't have to worry about, how do I pack for this trip? What do I bring? Do I really want to buy this equipment and gear and then I have to like store it in the locker? It's like a road trip in one, or a road trip in a box.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love it. I can't get my screen share to work here, Brian, so I apologize for that. But I am scrolling through here. So are the majority of your rentals drivable? Are they, or are we, is there the ability to rent a fifth wheel and have it dropped off and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, some of the most surprising things about our business are definitely the ease and the volume of having RVs delivered and where you can get them delivered. So about 60% of all of the owners on the platform offer deliverability as an option. So basically, they'll take the RV, whether it's a fifth wheel or a teardrop, or even sometimes people will want like drivable Class Bs delivered as well, because they might want you to drop it off at a local park near a lake because you know a great spot, you know how to get in, you know how to set it up, and they're trying to maximize their vacation time. Right. And so they start off their trip by having it delivered, but then they might want to carry on from that state park or that location and go road trip for a couple of days. So they want a drivable delivered. So all types of different vehicles are delivered. 60% of all of our owners offer delivery, and it's a huge benefit. You know, carrying on from that, this is, I don't know, Cara, if you love this sort of idea, but I do. I'm really big into convenience, right? Because we don't have a lot of time and I really like to maximize my vacation time. So I'm into get it delivered and then also throw in all the convenience fees that we also offer. So if you don't want to have to deal with any of the setup, the teardown, or even any of the dumping of the tanks or the cleaning of the RV, no worries. You literally you can just throw those in. Now owners will charge you a little bit to do that because it's work for them, but great. That means you're literally, it's like getting a hotel, a 5-star hotel outdoors. You just like rock up to your hotel room, which is the vehicle, stay there for the weekend or the week, and then the owners come and take care of everything. Cleaning, dumping, relocation. It's really such an awesome form of travel these days, particularly because it's outdoors. So if you're ever looking for safe travel, you know, social distancing and being 6 foot away is almost like built into the experience, right? You're likely to be 6 feet away from a tree versus 6 feet away from another human being. Right.
Yeah, no, I love the ease and convenience, the accessibility stuff. I know as a former campground owner, there's lots of folks who have, you know, tons of desire to get out and experience it, and maybe not the well, number one, access to the equipment, but then also, you know, the know-how to be able to deal with all the things that come along with RVing. So this really provides an incredible level of accessibility, which, you know, then just translates to more demographics and more portions of the market getting out into campgrounds and experiencing the lifestyle, which, you know, certainly has obvious and palpable kind of ripple effect across the board for operators all over the place.
You said,
yeah, please. Sorry.
I was just going to carry on from something you said. You said something really interesting, right? When you're talking about the know-how, like what's required. That is the number one. Actually, there's two big obstacles that we hear all the time from people. One is, do I need a special driver's license to drive these things? And the second is, I don't know enough about RVing. Like even when we talk at the industry level, we talk a lot about the lifestyle, right? Which just gives this implication that you have to know and understand how to RV. And what we like to do is like bust through those myths. You don't need to know anything. The biggest obstacle you've got, honestly, is just like just like saying we're doing it and we'll figure it out as we're going along. Yeah. The driving, the delivery service is certainly one of the easiest ways that we recommend for people that have no know-how, right? 90% of the customers that came to Outdoorsy.com this summer through COVID were first-time users, had never tried an RV. And we said, look, it's really simple and straightforward. We'll give you all of the tips to do. One of them is get it delivered like to your nearest local park, and then maybe take it out and, take your last day driving around to familiarize yourself if you want, but just start small. But the biggest takeaway for me, the biggest message that I like to get out there is you don't need a special driver's license. You don't need the know-how. You don't have to be part of the lifestyle. You will just feel like the benefits oozing through your soul and your relationships, the people that you're with, if you just like get out there and get into a park and wake up in the morning, with a cup of coffee and like appreciating the surroundings of nature.
Yeah, I really think there's this kind of magical stuff that happens when you go camping that until you do, you don't know about it. So it's
she makes it sound really good. It's almost like she does marketing for a living.
Almost. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like I said, as somebody who ran a campground prior, there was always this. I mean, I was doing that kind of pre-peer-to-peer market days, but always this kind of desire or need, I guess, to expand your potential customer base. And so this is such a fabulous way to do it. I love the ingenuity behind it. I think from an operator standpoint and obviously a consumer standpoint, it really addresses a big need in the market. And there's obvious appetite for it based on how incredibly successful you guys have been. So I guess I do want to kind of touch on some concerns that operators sometimes come to me with specific to it around things like insurance and liability and how these kind of third-party rental agreements work. Are they expecting payment from the renter or the RV owner? How do those fundamental kind of safety or liability things factor in here for Outdoorsy?
Yeah, good question. Look, one of the things that Jeff and I realized very early on. So when I say very early on, I mean like literally in 2014 when we had this idea, we're like, let's spend the second half of our career working in the outdoors. Let's live our best life, And so we got to the business of living in the outdoors. We sold our houses. We moved out of the houses into a 27-foot Eddie Bauer Airstream. We bought a Denali chalk. And we're like, let's go find out what products are needed, what products and what services are needed. And is there even a market here? Would people rent out their vehicles? Would other people, is there enough demand for it? And when we spent that first year on the road and we canvassed RV private parks, state parks, national parks, we met with owners, we talked to anybody, international travelers, Americans, like anybody that would talk to us. And the first thing and the most consistent problem or obstacle that came up was insurance and liability, right? And at first it started off around that rental, like, oh, well, how does this work? This is a home and a car in one. It's like worth $60,000 or $100,000. I'm just going to let somebody drive off with it. What happens for the insurance around the collision or the interior damage, the unit itself? What about liability for me as the owner and me as the renter? Like there were so many layers to how we would tackle insurance that we decided very early on back in 2014 that core to the business strategy would be building insurance products. So we weren't going to be sort of at the mercy of a variety of different insurance companies and what products they felt were available to renters or owners or park owners. But instead we wanted to build our own set of products that we could customize. So for example, like a lot of owners that rent out on Outdoorsy.com are professional rental companies, and they have challenges in insurance by when their vehicles are not being rented, right? Which is our first generation of insurance products was the episodic. We cover the vehicle, the owner, and the renter for the period of the rental, right? The episodic insurance. But for these owners that had multiple vehicles and they were sitting on lots, they didn't have coverage for liability for off time and commercial use. So we built exclusions that are, we tackled the exclusions in the policies so that we could offer that coverage for these business owners. And we've continued on that path for building a greater suite of insurance products that are now looking at some of these new use cases around like campground owners. But right now, the coverage that we provide, Cara, covers the liability and the collision on both the owner and the renter side, whether it's in the campground or it's during the use on the road.
Awesome. Again, the ingenuity stuff, just finding and creating solutions to hurdles is incredibly valuable, and I think a fundamental reason why Outdoorsy is so successful. It's been, I think, I do think that the perception is shifting, but I do think it's been interesting for operators to kind of start walking this road and feel confidence with it. But there's definitely, so many obvious benefits. I'm interested, I think you mentioned some corporate partnerships with KOAs and things like that. How do those specifically work, if you're allowed to share that proprietary?
Yeah, absolutely. KOA has been a partner of Outdoorsy since the early days, a little bit later than the first year business, but it was one of those marquee brands that we identified going back to like just spending all that time on the road. We're like, God, like there is so much coverage from a KOA campground perspective that you can always feel safe, like wherever you are, whatever state you're traveling in, whether you're in, more of an urban center or full rural, like you're likely to find one of those awesome yellow and red signs along the highways and roads, right? I remember growing up in Canada, we had, was it the neighborhood friendly signs? You might remember this, car, the little sign that was in the neighborhood watch program that was in all of the households. And for me, KOA at a campground level is kind of like that. When you're right, parent. Just like that. Block parent. Thank you. That's what the program was. So we partnered up with KOA and we work with them pretty consistently in terms of how do we not just co-market and share information and benefits around discounted campground rates, or like when to book early and soon because bookings are filling up for high seasons. But we also work with each other on sharing insights on how can we do check-in and check-out more appropriately or more effectively. I'd say that's probably one of the biggest areas that we want to tackle looking at next year is how do we integrate more systems from our Outdoorsy community, either our RV owners or the renter itself, as they're coming in and out of the campgrounds, checking in and checking out, so that both parties are really clear on who the owner is of the vehicle. Going back to the points we were making around a lot of our customers are first time rental customers or first time users of the product. It will offer another added level of service that both brands can provide, which helps both the campground and us as the marketplace deliver a better, more confident solution that will make that customer want to return, and ideally work our way towards being seen as easy as a check-in or check-out or travel option as checking into a hotel or even a Vrbo or an Airbnb. That is the long-term vision and goal for us, because we do see our product being a very strong competitor to hotel and vacation rental properties. But where we are not matched or measured in their customer experience is in these areas of familiarity. Nobody knows how to like check in and out of an RV or check in and out of a campground, but everybody knows how to check in and out of your apartment, because we all have had an apartment, either a home or an apartment growing up. Oh, there's a door, there's a lock. We've bought and sold houses. There's maybe a key box lock. I know how to work the kitchen, and if something goes wrong, there's a fuse box station probably near the laundry room. Like these are all things that we either know growing up or Airbnb has established for 15 years. We're only 4 years into this. So we're the trendsetter. We're putting in the effort and we're building these processes because we really care about guest experience and hospitality. And that's how Outdoorsy sees the brand that we are developing. We're building an outdoor hospitality brand. So working with our top campground partners like KOA or Thousand Trails or ELS, which are other partners for us, is a priority.
Awesome. I completely agree. That was actually one of my questions on my list, was like, what are your hurdles for the future? Where do you want to go? I think, there's so much appetite for things like automation and streamlining the booking and check-in processes and stuff like that, from both the consumer and the campground operations side. So, I think those are great strategic goals to have. I'm just light bulbing this a little bit right now, but are you in partnership or considering partnership with like existing booking engines like Spot Tonight or Camp Spot, folks like that are doing online reservations really successfully?
You mean that are doing online campground reservations?
Yes, right.
Yeah, great question. We do have a lot of advertising partnerships and agreements with campground booking sites. But in terms of like full API integrations with those sites, that's not currently on the roadmap for us. One of the things that we talk a lot about in our company is we don't want to lose sight on the core objective, which is our mission at the company level is how do we make memorable outdoor experiences accessible to everyone? So job number one is making sure that we do a rock solid work around making Outdoorsy aware to anyone, whether it's a novice or an experienced outdoor traveler, making them aware of like how a marketplace works. Search and find and book something that's easy. Get a delivery if you don't feel comfortable driving. Understand simple road trips so that you use the product more than one time. And if we can introduce them into the marketplace and funnel them through a really solid experience on how they can pick up and use and return a camper van, an RV, a truck camper, then that will drive sort of the repeat business that we're looking for. And we want to make sure that we don't miss on the objective of matching a renter with an owner. Like that is job number one. And then moving into how do we work through the whole campground booking life cycle, and whether that's through API integrations or whether that's through tighter promotions or programs or bringing them into the marketplace in our booking engine is stuff that we're working on.
Cool.
Right. And I understand you absolutely have to stick with your core mission as you're saying, but I feel like there's steps that are down the road and maybe they're a couple years or longer, right? But I feel like there's an opportunity here to work more closely with campgrounds to take that next step and because yes, you rent a great RV from Outdoorsy, right? You have good communication with the owners, everything's clean, everything's great, you enjoy your RV, but what about enjoying the campground or place you're parked at? Because that inherently is going to have an impact on your perception of the whole experience, right?
Yeah, that's such a good point you're making, Brian. We're all in bed together, right? Yeah. Like the customer, the consumer doesn't pull apart individual days or experience moments from the totality of their vacation, right? Their vacation is either 1 day, 2 days, or 7 days, and it includes the pickup, the return, where they stayed, and probably also where they went and what they did too. It's like, because they're measuring this travel option and vacation with other possible travel options, right? Like, oh, I can go to a city, I can stay in a hotel, and I can do these 5 things, and there's a concierge desk, and the concierge desk in the hotel will tell me where to go, and it's it's straightforward. So, it just goes back to the point on why partnerships for Outdoorsy are so critical, because we're not able to solve all of these things in 1 quarter or 1 year. Particularly now where we have so many new challenges that we're all faced with COVID. We have to adhere to more stringent education and cleaning services and facilities. We've had to work out how to do contact keyless exchange for both the actual rental, and we also, in some instances with campgrounds, have to do that. We have to make sure that we are providing timely information around whether or not the campgrounds have their services available. Is the pool open? Is the hot tub open? Is laundry facilities open? And making sure that that information is part of the check-in or check-out process. So these are incremental roadmap initiatives that we are committed to working with our campground partners on. And, you know, probably one of the things I hope that most campground partners would say about Outdoorsy as a company is we came into this industry unlike an Uber, right? Who quite famously, you know, describes themselves as disrupting the category and wanting to sort of replace the existing incumbents and the existing product. We never wanted to do that, and we didn't approach the industry that way. We came in and we were like, KOA, RVIA, 1,000 Trails, please come work with us. Like, yes, you know, we're like a new solution or new kids on the block here, but we want to partner with you guys and pull that 50 plus years experience and how to do this well into some new channels that we're realizing through digital apps or site experiences that we can provide. So, you know, we're here for the long haul. I think we've got really strong partnerships with those campground partners that I mentioned. And these are the things that the marketing, the product, and the customer service teams work on week in, month over month, year over year.
Well, I think you and I know that that's the best way to proceed for business, right? Is step by step, do one thing, do it well, then move on to the next thing and do it well. And it's really hard, at least in my brain, from an entrepreneur standpoint, because I just want to do it all at the same time, right now. But what you're saying, that process is great, and I think there's just so many paths that Outdoorsy can go as they walk years and years ahead that it's going to be interesting to see.
Right.
You know, if it's cool with you guys, I would love to maybe throw sort of a question out your way or a topic to discuss. So one of the things, you know, that we have a ton of respect for how difficult it is to plan and to execute in our worlds, right? Because we're talking about physical infrastructure and digital experiences. Yeah. But, you know, when I think about campgrounds and innovation over the next couple of years, I'd love to like ask, like, what are some of the new product or service offerings that you guys are seeing? I'll throw one out there to get the conversation started. It's a crossover product for us, right? One of the areas that we want to work on is how do we, going back to the hotel concept, right? How do we work with campground owners and take a look at their utilization or their inventory and say, okay, if you have sites that are either not booked or are booked infrequently enough that we can offer a product where we say to all of our owners, look, if you don't really want to manage all the key exchanges, you don't want to go through the process of like multiple customers over time that you have to meet with and do an orientation and explain, then how do we work directly with campgrounds to say, look, we've got these owners that want to basically stick their product in your lot for the whole season, not for themselves to use, which I know is the product that campgrounds have today, but I mean truly for rental. So then the campground has got guaranteed revenue. It's guaranteed booking. So they can choose also how they want to balance out like more either longer, it's not even a longer term stay. It's like an ongoing rental stay, but like the unit is there. It's like kind of getting cabins for free. Yeah. And then who knows, like what impact does that have on how you then think about what you need for staffing and how much free time you might have to work on new business initiatives while you're still getting the utilization from your customers during your summer months?
So I feel like I'm in the twilight zone because this is on my list too. I was going to ask you if you had any examples where parks are doing this yet. I know for me as an operator, I think, you know, if I'm sitting at 85% occupancy for, you know, long periods of time and maybe only have 100% for 3 weeks out of the summer or something, I'm going to want to diversify those things without necessarily investing the capital to purchase rentals myself. So this is where I can see this being an incredible partnership between Outdoorsy and then that facilitation with individuals who own the equipment. So I find it funny that you've asked that, but yeah, I 100% think there is incredible opportunity there. We've got the operators have the land and the connections and the 50 amp and the sewer and all those things, and you guys have the equipment. I think these partnerships are incredibly smart. I think there's definite appetite for a product like that for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, from my perspective, go ahead, please, Jennifer.
No. I'm more interested to learn.
Well, so I think from my perspective, and again, I've got some ideas that maybe Cara can refute as a former park owner. I've never owned a campground, right? That may or may not work. But I think that we've already talked about the insurance thing, so that if we can communicate that to owners better, then that's going to resolve a lot of the concerns.
Right.
Two, I think what Cara said is correct, that people are willing to put these things in lieu of spending $30,000 to $80,000 on a cabin or whatever else. But how do I then, as an owner, right, speaking, how do I manage the quality? How do I make sure that, like, some parks have a 10-year rule, right? They want the rigs to look well and nice, and how do I control what's parked on my campground and when? And then, is it worth my while? Like, because you've got tenants coming in, how do I control those tenants? How do I make sure they're not the 16 to 22-year-old party people who are going to drink and make noise all night and irritate my other campground owners? So there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. What's my profit share? Is it worth my time? What am I making from it? Those kinds of things. And maybe Cara can.
Well, I think there's lots of ways to address that stuff in the product packaging.
Well, there is definitely, but how? Like, let's talk about it, right?
I was about to. I think there's obviously, the ability to, in my opinion, as an operator, I would expect in that type of scenario that included in the agreement is I'm going to obviously need to access the unit, make sure it's clean, offer any sort of add-on stuff. And obviously, so the pricing model needs to compensate me for that resource expenditure. And of course, I need to make money off of my site. Otherwise, why am I doing this? But there's also ways to potentially vet who's coming through. I think if the agreement is mutually beneficial for everyone, I get that those are concerns, but I don't imagine anybody who's willing to take something like that on is going to be unreasonable about writing up an agreement that's satisfactory to all the parties and potentially also addresses things from the RV equipment owner side where now you don't have to worry about that insurance policy covering your RV when it's sitting in storage because it's in utilization all the time, or at least through the operating seasons, depending where you're located. There's definitely business benefits that come with having higher occupancy all the time. So, your turnover rates potentially are less, you don't have units moving in and out as often. That stuff is really taxing both on the staff front and the infrastructure front, people backing in and out, and the marriage breakup stuff that's really tough in campgrounds can also sometimes result in infrastructure damage and wear and tear on your property that, this less movement really restricts. So there's pros and cons on both sides. I think the fundamental is just going to require being really thoughtful about ensuring that all of the pertinent parties benefit from the agreement.
Right.
It's a great way to work together, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think sorry, I was waiting for you to start, Jennifer, and we're on a lag. I wasn't going to talk. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to riff on that a little bit. One of the things that I'm seeing is there are a lot of new entrants in the glamping, or I don't know if that's technically campground space, but the glamping space. There's a lot of new entrants that are innovating maybe a little bit faster, and potentially this is a way that some of the more traditional private RV rental companies could learn from or lean from in terms of how that's working. I'll give one example. Outdoorsy invested and partnered with a company called Collective Retreats, and they are a traditional glamping business. And what we're doing in that integration or that partnership is you can directly book a glamping stay at one of their properties through Outdoorsy's site. But also we're going to innovate that product to make the glamping, which is like a tent and an outdoor deck, make that glamping station also equip a drivable. So a drive-up unit can stay on the premise. And so that's definitely one of the lead products that we have in terms of booking a vehicle in a campground that can have units there for the entire summer. So it can operate like a hotel room, or it can, that vehicle can be moved and you can easily put a customer stay who's just like popping in on the way onto another trip. And you're able to like book those trips on Outdoorsy.com, and Collective Retreats as a company is already thinking about how do they build that into the widgets on their website and landing pages. That's the kind of work that we want to be able to do with campgrounds all across the US and Canada. I think BC Tourism is a site that we're currently integrated to do as well for booking stays, but we certainly haven't made significant, we're not available on all private parks all across the US yet.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's still so fragmented, specifically the kind of online presence of this industry and how booking and things work. It makes it difficult to offer solutions kind of across the table like that. I'm hopeful and confident that we'll start to see better kind of partnership stuff on that front into the future. But I really love that. I love I've used this word multiple times, but the ingenuity behind just really maximizing the space and the tools each individual party brings to this table in a really mutually collaborative and beneficial way. It just does so many positive things, not just for our businesses, but then also for our consumers who then, I think I have a girlfriend who used to just rent RVs peer-to-peer through Outdoorsy, and that was how she camped, and they loved it so much. They bought an RV, and I'm pretty sure now she rents her RV out on Outdoorsy. So there's this like life cycle consumer thing that's really interesting too, right? Not only do we have access to this this family that never camped before, who's now RVing because they were given access to the lifestyle, but they've also transitioned into, kind of making some side extra income while their RV's sitting around and getting more folks. It's this exponential, cool dynamic that I certainly think has contributed to the crazy market growth we've seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's a fortuitous cycle, and we see it a lot ourselves, Cara, in our business and in all of our community meetups. We were, our teams were in Southern Cal for, I think, over the last 3 weeks. I think we did like 3 or 4 owner meetups. Part of Outdoorsy's commitment to building our brand is to really, as I said, is to not just work with partners, but to really work with our community. So we're out there face-to-face hosting meetups where we bring owners in that area, in that region, where they can network and meet other owners, and our product leadership and our community team leadership leads these sessions as ways to understand what are the biggest problems that we have to fix in the product, whether it's the website or the app experience, or what are new product innovations and ideas. And one of the things that came up a lot, particularly in Southern California, when I say a lot, I mean more so this year than what we saw before COVID, is brand new people coming to them that really had just rented on the website and started thinking, wait a minute, if my travel options are becoming either, not within my comfort zone, meaning airplane and hotel, don't really want to be in a hotel with, hundreds of people, or an airplane. If my travel options are becoming limited, I'm starting to think about spending more time outdoors in a quality way, whether it's a short trip, a day trip, or a week-long trip. And so now they've rented once and they're thinking, maybe I'll like buy a vehicle myself so that I can use it when I want to, not pay for that, and then figure out how I could do a couple of rentals, even if I don't want to commit to trying to like scale a little small business. And so they're there trying to figure out how to at least monetize the unit they bought. I don't have the exact shipment numbers, but I think it was, I know it was double-digit shipment growth, right? And so what we know is going to happen is that those owners, buying a recreational vehicle is probably the second most expensive purchase that they'll make within their household or their lives, second to mortgage. And their loan payments are probably around $600 a month. And when that starts to set in and they realize that life is still as demanding as it always was, you don't have a lot of time to use these things and to go out, that by year 3 or 2 or 3, they'll realize, wait a minute, I thought that I was going to use this like every weekend, and actually I'm not. So that realization is setting in, and Outdoorsy is just a perfect solution, right? It goes back to like, we serve 2 main customers, the owner and the renter, but now there is this like consumer that is starting to dabble in with a little bit both. And I think a lot of that has been brought on for sure by, how the landscape of our travel choices is just changing so rapidly. And also how the world is just going back to a simpler life. I think that's one of the macro themes in the world today, that people are realizing there's a lot of chaos, and where we can realize more calm or happiness in our world is going back to simple things in life, and things like family togetherness, basic meals, fewer items, and obviously what Outdoorsy and what parks and campgrounds provide is the doorway to those options.
Absolutely agree. I think there's so much, potential for, well, obviously, like I mentioned already, there's been huge impact on the market already, but I think there's a ton of potential for the kind of fundamental model that Outdoorsy works on to really continue to impact our industry, and like you said, people book trips and take them, and how long they're gone for, and all of those things is a huge shift, and I love to see it.
Well, so let's talk about this from an entrepreneur perspective, right, for a second, going back to your question about how do you get together with campgrounds. Cara's right, they're fragmented. Everybody's got a different online reservation system. Right. Everybody's going to have different preferences of who they want and who they do. So I think from a scalability perspective, right, and this is just my opinion, of course, you can shoot me down if I'm wrong, but I would say that your quick path to tying that all together from an Outdoorsy standpoint is to elevate and continue those deeper partnerships with the KOAs, with the 1,000 Trails, with the people who are large software providers. So I'm just going to pick on CampSpot because we have Casey as a regular guest on the show, right? But to be able to integrate those with APIs into your booking system, to where maybe if I'm a KOA owner, I'm going to go into eCamp and I'm going to say, like, I'm going to tick a box that says, yes, I want my whatever rentals pushed to Outdoorsy, or I want my campground pushed to Outdoorsy, and then that unlocks a whole series of preferences that says, okay, well, what do you want from Outdoorsy? Well, only guests between these ages. I want them to have this insurance. I want them to know that my quiet time is this period or whatever. And then that pushes to Outdoorsy, and then from a consumer standpoint, when they're reserving, they're looking at reserving a vehicle in Phoenix, Arizona, right? And it's just going to spit out, like, here's a list of campgrounds in Phoenix, Arizona that are participating from Outdoorsy, and these are KOA, and these are CampSpot, and these are 1,000 Trails, and whatever. And then you can filter that by, like, what it automatically maybe filters it based on the age range of the camper who's trying to register, right? And that's your quick way to scale. And like, it's convenience. You know that, Jennifer. If you can make something more convenient for somebody, they'll do it all day, every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big initiatives in driving ease of use and convenience is being relevant and being excellent on mobile. And Outdoorsy is leading the way in terms of mobile app, and our mobile experience is perfect, not just for the before trip or the booking of the vehicle, but also on trip. So as you guys know, like, many things can go wrong on an RV trip, and I always like to talk about like embracing that. I don't like to be the brand that tries to come across as picture perfect, whether it's in our social or whether it is the way that our customer service agents talk to our customers, or even the way that we think about our business. The part of the beauty of this product and the experience, the travel experience, is there's mishaps along the way and problems.
Sure.
And yes, the family, the couple, or the person complains about it, and your patients are going through the roof and you're annoyed and it's, a difficult thing. But more times than not, it ends up being the story that gets told around the kitchen table or the dining room table for 20 years. And it's like, seriously, if we don't have our memories and our stories from our family as some of the best moments, what do we have? Sorry, my little Siri, I guess, thought I was talking to her. I hope you guys can still hear me. But going back to the point of ease and convenience, that's why we tackle staying ahead in mobile and making sure that we have 24/7 customer service agents. It's why we have an in-house claims department. I think I talked a little bit about that before. We don't just outsource our insurance or claims management or even the build of the products to other third-party insurance companies. We build those products ourselves, and we make sure that we have agents that respond and maintain and resolve issues on both the owner and the renter side, like customer service and being available through all of the life cycle of the journey. The pre-booking, the booking, the key exchange, the post-trip is the customer life cycle and the needs of the customer that we spend most of our time working on.
Okay.
I mean, I just need convenience on steroids here, right? So here's what I need. I need like a fleet of corporate-owned Outdoorsy premium, like they're the best RVs you can get, right? I need to go to Outdoorsy. I need to choose my campground, choose my rental, and then I need to have it self-drive itself to my driveway and pick me up. And then if there are any mishaps or any problems along the way, if there's a maintenance issue or whatever, automatically, like Rosie from the Jetsons comes out of a little pod inside the RV and just fixes everything magically for me and then goes away, and I don't have to worry about it. So I don't know how close that is on the roadmap, maybe a year out.
Yeah, I think.
Let's see if I can pick you guys back up again.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, good. She missed that. That was the least important part of the whole show.
It really was. Yeah. What a waste of time. No, I do think, we're going to have interesting, technologically advanced ways to impact this industry going forward. So as much as I poke fun at you, Brian, I think you're not wrong. I think we're going to see that stuff continue to shift. I do really, maybe my dreams are a little more grounded than yours, but I can foresee, as somebody who used to operate a campground, a fundamental kind of easy, simplistic business model where you just kind of allow Outdoorsy or a peer-to-peer provider like this to really handle most of the logistical stuff for you, and you just have the sites there, and there's ways to partner up that could translate into a really interesting business model. So,
well, that's the thing. Like we're talking, like the maintenance thing, obviously, is sky high, right?
I love it.
But seriously, when you're talking about self-driving vehicles that are coming, like these things are
already
like
happening.
That's seamless, right? If I can specify, here's the 5 guests and friends and family members I want to go with me. Here's the addresses they live at. Click a button on Outdoorsy, pay an extra fee. It picks me up, then goes to my friends, then drives to the campground, then whatever sets everything up. Then I'm having an experience, and I can go camping, and it's convenient, and it's like that's coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably not next year from Outdoorsy, but maybe 3 years from now.
Well, you know what? And thanks, guys, for sticking with me there. I lost my Siri. Tried to get in on our live stream conversation here. She can be a little annoying at times.
See, AI, just like Brian was talking about.
Right? But I'm not. You guys might have to catch me up on some of the. If there was a question there I didn't answer, but I wanted to go back to this full through the line experience that we are all aiming to achieve, and talk about timelines for that, because I know that we are diligently working on our priorities around how do we make search and find and book, plus any mishaps that go along with the booking, all online, all real time, all the same on desktop and mobile. We have some really solid API integrations in place today. But those are, so for example, with rec.gov or Tourism BC or Vacation Renter. So we've got a lot of those sites. But today, that just allows all of our inventory to be available on those sites. So if people are surfacing or looking or searching or looking for campgrounds on rec.gov, for example, like state parks, you'll be able to see what available inventory, whether it's trailers for hunting or fishing or class Bs or fifth wheels for delivery, are available like within a 50 or 100 mile radius of where you're looking. Like that's a great user experience. That's really good for our business and for the industry, right? Because most people usually start with what do I want to do and where am I going? So that's a very valuable API integration for us. And then on the campground booking side, working with the campground partners, it is on our roadmap for next year. And I wonder if we all want to, it feels like Brian might have like led the pack here in forecasting what year this will be available for everybody. What do you guys?
Well, you missed what I really said, and that was the fleet of like a fleet of corporate-owned outdoorsy premium vehicles, right? That have like self-driving capabilities and can pick people up at their house and everything else. So I promised that. I only promised that next year for you, so you have some time.
Let's get Elon Musk on this in this conversation next time, because I would expect that he is working on self-driving cars. Although saying that, let's just let's not divert him from the more important task, and that is bringing these satellite Wi-Fi stations down below, because Wi-Fi is a core requirement for a whole new wave of consumers for us. And right now, I think a lot of the campgrounds sort of work off of 5G networks maybe, but there's some improvements to be made to make Wi-Fi and just like phone and internet.
When you unlock the real power of Starlink in a year or two, like,
that would be game changing, right? I mean, it is.
Well, yeah.
It's the current day challenge, right? The current day challenge is campgrounds are the supply constraint, and depending on how you look at campgrounds, some consumers are saying, well, it's not even just the inventory, what's available or not available, or that national and state parks are getting booked out earlier. But actually, it's like, what kind of inventory do I want? Like, I want to be able to stay in a great campground with like a certain expectation for connectivity or Wi-Fi or internet accessibility, plus then some of the amenities. Like that's the piece of the puzzle that we all want to be working on.
Yeah.
But we really should have Elon Musk on the show. Darryle, can you make that happen?
Can I get invited back, please?
Now that I'm thinking about Elon Musk, like I feel like Outdoorsy could build a fleet of like rocket-controlled, like convertible transformer RVs that can go to Mars and deploy a camper, and you can camp on Mars for the weekend and come back. I feel like you and Elon could work together on that.
We're working
That's
on
2
it.
years
We're working
probably.
on it.
Yeah, no pressure, Jennifer. No pressure on your roadmap. I think it's tough to
listen. I know that's crazy, but like that will happen in 20 or 30 years. Like, to be clear, you will be able to go camping on Mars.
Oh gosh, I hope I'm in the ground before then. I don't want to go to Mars. Anyway, I think it's back to your question, Jennifer, specifically about like timelines for that stuff. I do think it's coming. I think we have some work to do on the partnership kind of integrations front that break down some maybe proprietary barriers and things like that, and do that stuff in better ways to facilitate that. But I'm excited to see where it goes. There's obvious kind of need for it in the market, and I think those that embrace that and build it and do the work to get it off the ground and going will be the victors here. Those that kind of lag behind might end up struggling without it down the road. So I'm excited. I'm hopeful in the next, I hate to say 5 years. That feels like a long time, but That's my guess.
There's a lot of work that we have to do. 5 years, it's a commitment to improving the product experience at even a faster rate than what we've built today. I think we've done a fantastic job building Outdoorsy that is underpinned by these like insurance products. We're also looking at launching financial services products that help RV owners with the cost of their loans or cash advances to be able to buy second or third vehicles so that they can better manage what it costs them to maintain vehicles and offset that with the income they're earning by renting them. Like these are reasonable challenges to take on. Our company has always prioritized the RV owner or the business owner first. That's why we built Wheelbase, which is software specifically catered to mid-sized rental companies where they can like run their fleet of vehicles on the platform. That's why I said we looked into insurance and financial services products. So we have, I think, a lot of exciting products that drive a ton of financial and just enjoyment value for consumers. But it's just impossible to not also find yourself thinking about new expectations because of what the world is providing us, with younger people being more interested, more people being interested in outdoor travel. And like, we got to figure out how we make these amazing experiences for them.
Absolutely.
But you will, and that's why you're going to survive over other people. It's people like me, people like you. There's like dozens of other people in the industry, right? To be clear, just the two of us on the show. Cara pushing CCRVC forward, associations, things like that. Darryle doing whatever. No, I'm just kidding. Darryle does all kinds of stuff with Modern Campground and the technology there. And so just that we all know, like, I don't know what the stat is. I read it one time, right? Jeff Bezos used to say it all the time. Like the average company, big or whatever, lasts what, 60, 70 years or something, and IBM's a dinosaur at 90 because they don't innovate. They build and then they stop for whatever reason. And so the people that keep pushing forward are going to be the successful ones.
Can I get some fast feedback from you guys, or just spend a minute talking about what are your impressions of the Outdoorsy brand? What stands out as important or things for us to think about?
Go ahead, Cara.
Oh gosh, I think you guys are doing such an incredible job. It's tough to, I really appreciate that, you touched on things like, not giving off a perception that everything's perfect and hunky-dory all the time. Those things are incredibly valuable. I think, all your fundamental like imagery, marketing stuff is beautiful and simple, and just conveys the lifestyle so well. I really think the biggest kind of hurdle is that working to get to defragment the online kind of digital automation stuff, which obviously isn't all on your shoulders. There's lots of working cogs in that machine that are going to have to kind of function together. I think fundamentals like breaking down perceptions maybe with campground owners and things like that are really vital to expanding, because you can expect then, as you've demonstrated this level of integrity and trust and innovative ability to provide products that solve their problems. I think campground owners are getting more and more receptive to this shift in the market. So you're already addressing a lot of those issues. I think, continuing down that road is going to be valuable just to keep access to more and more site inventory. I mean, they've got spots sitting empty sometimes. Let's fill them. And I think this is a great way to be able to do that. So I feel like that's probably my biggest, between the defragmentation of the booking online stuff and the close partnerships with campgrounds, which, sounds like you're already addressing. I think you guys are doing great work.
Thank you for the feedback. I value you guys as contributors to like what areas that we're doing well, or what areas that we should spend more time working on.
Well, everything is a convenience aspect, right? And
Right.
we've talked about from the guest perspective how you can close that loop with campgrounds, right? But it's also from a campground owner perspective a convenience. So like Cara briefly touched on,
Right.
there's so many companies that come in and try to disrupt the industry that disappear after a year because they either try too hard or don't know what they're doing or overshoot whatever they're doing. Like, it's clear Outdoorsy's here to stay.
Right.
You're already solidified your consumer base, and now if you can build that trust with the campground owners where they believe that the Outdoorsy platform, through its whatever we talked about from the consumer side, is going to make things easier on them, on their lives, make them be able to manage less sites or clean less RVs or do whatever, and make more revenue from it, then that's going to slowly close that loop, and it's going to make it more convenient
Right.
for them to work with Outdoorsy too.
It also expands their customer base market
Based.
beyond
Because of-
just RV owners. And that's a fundamental thing for campground operators to wrap their brains around, is your ability to now market to 60% of the population instead of 30 or however many people own RVs is so incredibly valuable to your
Right.
bottom line.
Here's your marketing slogan: the OTA that pays you.
Yeah, no, I think campgrounds are seeing this stuff. It's apparent, by how successful Outdoorsy's been, that obviously there's willingness to have their rental units in properties around the continent. So I think that's only going to continue to grow. And Outdoorsy's doing a great job demonstrating incredible reputation and great innovative problem-solving skills that address all this stuff. There's great opportunities here, I think, for product partnership, and I'm really excited to see where it's going to go.
And as we covered before, it's just guarding your reputation, right? You're doing things the right way. We talked about briefly, step by step, do one thing well and then move on to the next thing. And if you continue to do that, you're going to continue to guard that reputation, and you're going to continue to build it, and everybody's going to trust you more.
Correct.
Absolutely agree. I love to imagine a world truly where people just have more time spent outdoors, or at least are not hindered or feeling like the outdoors isn't available to them because they don't have expert level skills in a certain outdoor activity. Yeah. It's just so good for family relationships, for just clarity of your own mind and thoughts. And I think it helps us all help each other be nicer, be calmer, reset, focus on the fundamentals of life that make communities and society stronger. Anything that Outdoorsy can do to get more people believing that it's easy and it's straightforward, and we continue to improve on that experience is, why we get up every day and build better product.
Amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, that would have been the perfect end for the show, but I have to add one more thing. I just have to ask this for Darryl's sake, right? Because Darryl's in the Philippines, which is how many islands, Darryl?
700 plus.
700 plus. So maybe this is 3 years down the road for Outdoorsy's roadmap. But we need some kind of helicopter RV that can bring camping to the Philippines for Darryl.
I don't know if Jennifer's the person for that task.
Yeah.
Well, we've already discussed how she's gonna build the corporate RV fleet that's autonomous and has Rosie come out and clean it and fix things.
We're just really.
I'm promising things for you. I apologize, Jennifer, but
filling up the task here.
Well, listen. Outdoorsy is a global marketplace.
Right.
I know that we all are questioning, what does global travel look like and how do we define it these days? But you will find Outdoorsy vehicles, or you'll find inventory on outdoorsy.com in, I think it's 14 countries now. So you could find and book and rent a camper van in England, France, Germany, Australia, Canada, right. For sure. Thank goodness. This is actually Outdoorsy was technically started and founded in Canada. A story for another time, guys. But we are in many countries, and there's some pretty interesting statistics around the growing popularity of camper van or RV use in countries like China and Japan. So, I mean, look, mobility is a big trend. And I think we'll find it's a more exciting view on how we think about mobility and just RV travel versus what typically is described today in the US, right? We talk a lot about the RV lifestyle, which usually denotes or means like retirees that move into an RV and now like live in the RV full time or most of the year. That's what we think of this definition of RV lifestyle. And what I'm trying to promote, or what our company is trying to build, is actually more of a, one-off regular use for thinking about these vehicles in different ways, whether it's like, living in the RV for 3 months of the year because you're doing a sabbatical, whether you're thinking about a new way to work and live, i.e. you have a house, but like you're going to maybe visiting customers or traveling in your region and your ability to have Wi-Fi and work remotely because your company is now allowing it is another use. Think more broadly outside of the core stereotypes allows us to think for use in travel in other countries as well. I've got best friends that still live in Perth and Melbourne, and I've got friends that live in England. And when I go over to visit them, why wouldn't I also consider a road trip to tour around New Zealand or to, go to the Cotswolds in England? We were just in New York on some business, and my girlfriend was having her 50th birthday party. So we rented it was a conversion van. Next time we'll rent probably something a little bit nicer because it's real hot in New York in the summertime. Yeah. Like you go for a work trip and then you're like, hey, I'll just like pop down the road and I'll pick up a vehicle there because you know that these things are options. So I think the world is going to think about mobility differently, and we will start to tear down some of the stereotypes of the American RV lifestyle and road travel and picking up vehicles in different.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the point. Like, this is the reason I bring up these things for conversation, not because they're realistic or because I'm actually serious about creating flying RVs in 3 years, right? But it prompts that discussion of, like, there is a global growing audience, and we're seeing this through Modern Campground, where, like, Darryle can speak to, like, we have trouble finding camping and RV articles from Africa or South America, but there is, like, Mark Kep's got a Facebook group. He's a regular guest on the show. Like, we had somebody talk about their campground and ask questions in the group and in Argentina, in Patagonia. And so this is growing everywhere. And so, if we, like Jennifer said, if we can think outside the box, and of course this isn't helicopters and stuff like that, right? But imagine like an island in the Philippines that's devoted to camping, like the whole island is a campground, and maybe it's a fleet of Outdoorsy rentals there, right, that people get to by boat from all 699 other Philippine islands. Like, I mean, just think outside the box of ways you can bring this global camping experience to people, and it's going to change so many lives.
This requires awareness, right? Like, it's amazing. We all think that most people kind of know, but I always have to remind myself, I wasn't into the RV lifestyle before starting this company. What drove my interest was, how do I not spend the next 20 years of my life working under fluorescent lights in an office building? And so I dug into it and we found our way. So it's like, whatever we can do to, I don't mean to sound very, self-promotional here, but I do think Outdoorsy provides a great service. So it's like, hey, you don't have to be into the lifestyle. You don't have to buy one and risk the 60 grand. You don't have to like use it all the time. You could try it once and never use it again for a couple of years. There's lots of options, but check out the site, connect with an owner, give it a go, even if it's a delivery for a weekend. Awareness is key.
Totally agree.
Well, and the other thing too, like Cara, from a campground owner perspective, right? You're buying cabins. We talked about saving money buying cabins, but what if you just buy your own fleet of RVs and then put them all on Outdoorsy?
That's what I'm saying. That's a great business model, in my opinion. Put them all on Outdoorsy. I don't got to do any advertising. I don't need a website to sort through reservations and do all of that stuff.
Wait a minute. You still need a website. I'm the marketing guy over here. You still need a website.
No, I mean a website with a booking engine built in.
I know
all
what you mean.
that
I'm
shit.
just messing.
Oh, sorry. Outdoorsy really just would solve those fundamental kind of problems and streamline a lot of that stuff. There's no. it's the ability to step outside the box, I think, is incredibly valuable, and maybe wasn't available to us 5 or 10 years ago. But utilizing the tools that exist now, like Outdoorsy, I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. If I could buy some property and wanted to run another campground, I absolutely would consider it.
Trust is the key. Just like you were saying, Brian, it's like, there's a lot of new companies that are jumping into the game right now because, of course, outdoor travel is sort of in its heyday, and everybody is looking to these options because they're inexpensive, they're convenient, they're safe for social distancing. And so you get a lot of new players that are jumping into the space, but there's also many things that can go wrong, right? In terms of like ID verification, or checking and confirming for fraud, or having the security to know that the company will back you in the case of like claims or roadside assistance, et cetera. So it's the DNA of the marketplace for us. It's why we like to refer to ourselves as the most trusted marketplace. And I think this conversation has been awesome in terms of like reminding me of some of the good partnerships and the tracks that we have laid down. I think we've got the right vision, and I'm excited by the future.
Cool. Me too.
Yeah, so am I. All right, listen, I love you all, but I have to go to Jasper, and we're 11 minutes over already. So thank you, Jennifer. Really appreciate you joining us. Looking forward to continuing a conversation. Hopefully, maybe we can have you on a future show to maybe update us on what Outdoorsy is doing, some of the progress of this stuff. Darryle, Cara, thank you as always for joining us. Just a reminder, this video/audio will be available as a podcast and all the major platforms shortly thereafter. I'm going to try to do it before I leave here. Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, all those kinds of places. You can watch it at mcfiresidechats.com or any of the Facebook pages that we have access to. So appreciate you guys. Thank you again, and we will see you next week doing what, Cara? What are we doing?
Oh my gosh. You're putting me on the spot. I saw you sent an email.
I always do this at the end of every show. You should be prepared.
While you're thinking about that, I will ask people to follow Outdoorsy on Instagram, because it's a great way to stay connected to good ideas for road travel.
Right on. Yes.
Perfect. And let's connect Darryle and Jennifer too, because I feel like Modern Campground could be a way to bridge maybe that gap between the industry too, Jennifer. If you have some people who would like to work on that. So, all right, take care, guys. We will see you later.
Okay.
Have a good show.
Aloha.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of MC Fireside Chats, hosted by Brian Searl and Cara Csizmadia. Have a suggestion for a future show, or want to see your campground or company as part of an episode? Email us at hello@moderncampground.com. Join us next week for another episode. And don't miss the latest outdoor hospitality news and commentary from around the world at moderncampground.com.